Hey, what is going on guys, RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 worst champions, items, and classes / origins in Teamfight Tactics. So these are going to be the things that you should be looking to stay away from right now if your main goal is to win. Alright, so to start it off here, we're going to take a look at the 5 worst champions, and these are going to be in no real specific order, but coming in at number 5 here is going to be Fiora, and Fiora is arguably the worst champion in the game as of right now. So Fiora's active is pretty underwhelming. Fiora becomes immune to damage and spells, and after a short delay, she's going to stun and damage the closest enemies. So this ability is pretty underwhelming because it only does 100 damage, and it does 100 damage to only one target. Compare that to somebody who is also a level 1 champion like a Darius or a Garen. Garen, for example, he's dealing a ton of damage, and it's also AoE too, so the damage that you get out of Fiora's active is just very, very weak. She's also a champion that's got a very low base health at level 1. It's only 400, which is a lot lower than most champions in the game, so just overall she is a very weak champion at the moment. So next up here is going to be Evelyn. Evelyn is a part of the Demon Origin and the Assassin class, and there's 7 champions in Demon, there's 7 champions in Assassin. You only need 6 in order for you to reach the maximum stats from those classes or origins, so usually Evelyn is the champion that is left out if you're building towards an Assassin or a Demon. The other champions in those classes and origins are just much stronger. For example, if you want to go for an Assassin comp, Pyke is a 2-cost champion, Evelyn is a 3-cost champion. Pyke is just much stronger than Evelyn. She's also pretty reliant on tier, reliant on a Spiritosian, but you don't really want to be wasting your tier on an Evelyn just because of how underwhelming she is. So just overall, there's better champions right now to pick up than Evelyn if you're going for Demon or Assassin. So next up for Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai is a part of the Brawler class, which is one of the weaker classes in the game at the moment. Similar to the champions prior, he also does have a pretty lackluster active. His active is going to allow him to burrow, and then he's going to come out of his burrow and knock up a target and deal damage. I feel like if this ability was AoE, then it would be quite a bit stronger, but because the knockup is only single target, it just ends up being a pretty lackluster ability. Not only is it a pretty weak active, it also takes such a long time to get to. It costs 150 mana to get to your active on Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai definitely takes the cake when it comes to a high cost ability while not really being that effective. So next up here for Mordekaiser, he is a part of the Phantom Origin and the Knight class, which the Phantom Origin is pretty good if you can get to it, but it does take you quite a while since you do need a Kindred or a Karthus. The Knight class is one of the weaker classes, and even if you do end up going for a Knight class or a Knight composition, then you're almost always going to want to leave out the Mordekaiser and just go for the Garen and the Darius. Garen and Darius are just the better Knight champions at the moment. Garen does have the exact same base stats as Mordekaiser, however he does have 150 more health there. He also just has a much better active ability. Both Garen and Darius do have better active abilities than Mordekaiser does, so he's just overall a pretty weak champion at the moment. And then lastly, to round out the top 5 is going to be Poppy. So for a 3-cost champion, Poppy is one of the weaker ones for sure. Poppy is a part of the Yordle Origin right now, which is one of the weaker origins. She's also a part of the Knight class, which is pretty weak too. Her active ability for a 3-cost champion is one of the weakest in the game. Poppy's going to swing her hammer, damaging and knocking up the closest enemy. So it's only going to damage and knock up the closest enemy. It's single target. So going back to Rek'Sai there, I feel like if these abilities, the Rek'Sai active and the Poppy active, were AoE, or they at least knocked up like 2 members or something like that, it would make the champions much stronger. But because this is a single target ability here with the Poppy active, it's just not very strong at all. So if we take a look at the worst items now, starting it off here is going to be Redemption. So Redemption is just a pretty inconsistent item because you're going to almost always going to want to put it on the champion who is going to die first in your team comp, but it's hard to tell who that champion is going to be. The same champion isn't going to die first every single time, and for example, if your tank champion ends up living until the very end, then you're just going to waste the Redemption. It's not even going to do anything for you. So the fact you also do do need a tier to build it, and tier builds into just much stronger items as well, means that you just don't want to really be spending that tier on the redemption. You want to be spending it on things like the Spear of Sojin, which is a very good item. So just because you need a tier, the fact that it's also very inconsistent doesn't make it a great pickup. So next up for Guardian Angel, it's pretty weak, similar to the same reasons as to why Redemption is weak. So Guardian Angel is just pretty inconsistent, because if the champion who's wearing it does not even end up dying, then it's just a waste of items. You have to use a chain vest, and you also have to use a BF sword in order to complete this. And with the chain vest, you'd much rather just use that towards something like the Phantom Dancer, or use it towards a Frozen Heart. For the BF sword, getting things like the Spear of Sojin instead is just a much better payoff in most situations. You're also only gonna revive with 500 health, which is pretty weak. If they did increase that revive health up to something like maybe 1,000 or 1.5k health, then it would be a much stronger item, but just at the moment, it is not a very good item pickup. So next up for Knight's Vow, it is definitely one of the weaker spatula items. It builds out of a spatula and a chain vest, and if you are going to be using your spatula on something, it's going to be a lot better to use it on something like the Force of Nature, save for 2 spatulas for that. Using it on a different class switch, so making one of your champions an assassin, or making them a demon or a sorcerer or something like that. Those classes and origins are just much stronger than the Knight class is right now. If you are going for Knight composition, then you're probably only going to be getting like 2 knights, and you can get that very easily in the early game with the Darius, the Garen, or the Mordekaiser. So a lot of the time, this item is just not going to come into good use. Now for Swordbreaker, it's a very weird and weak item, because what it does is attacks have a chance to disarm, but the recipe for the item is a Negatron cloak as well as a chain vest. So you're most likely gonna be wanting to put this item on a tank champion. However, AD carry champions or attack speed champions are going to be the ones that make the best use out of it, because your attacks have a chance to disarm. So you do want to be building like some attack speed, or have some attack speed to make this item more useful, but the recipe there just doesn't make it that great to put onto something like an AD carry or a champion that does have attack speed. So it's kind of an item that just contradicts itself, and it just isn't really a great pickup a lot of the time. And then to round out the top 5 is going to be Luden's Echo. So Luden's Echo is probably the weakest tier item. The other tier items are just so much stronger. You got your Frozen Heart, you got your Spear of Sojin, your Seraphs, your Static Shiv. These items are just so much better than the Luden. So if you are looking to use your tier, it's going to be for one of those items more often than not. Luden's Echo, it is going to give you 200 splash damage, which is pretty weak. If the active did increase the splash damage there by a little bit, like if they increased it, it might be worth picking up, but because the other items that you can build tier out of are just so much better, it's just not worth it to go for Ludens. And then if we do round out the video by taking a look at the 5 worst classes and origins, starting it off here is going to be the Knight class. So the champions you do have in the Knight class are Darius, Garen, Kayle, Mordekaiser, Poppy, and Sejuani. Now Garen, Kayle, and Sejuani are pretty strong in this class here, but the other champions in Mordekaiser and Poppy are 2 of the weakest champions overall in the game at the moment. Darius is kind of in the middle there. He's not a very good pick, but he's not super weak. So until you do end up getting like your Kayle and your Sejuani, then the champions that you're getting with this Knight composition here are pretty weak, and it does take you a very long time to get to your Kayle and to get to your Sejuani. Also, the bonus stats that you do get for getting the Knight bonuses there, once you get 2 Knights 20 damage blocked, 4 Knights 40 damage block, it's just not really worth it compared to a lot of the other class and origin stat bonuses. So for the Pirate Origin, it's one of the weakest origins right now. The champions you do have in the Pirate Origin are Gangplank, Graves, Misfortune, and Pyke. And Pyke is really the only good champion in this origin right now. Gangplank, one of the weaker champions in the game. Graves arguably could have been in my top 5 weakest champions at the moment. And then Misfortune, she's alright, but it does take you a very long time to get her. You're not going to be getting her until very later on into the game. And also there, the bonus stats that you do get for getting 3 pirates, you're going to earn up to 4 additional gold after combat against another player. So this is actually not giving you any sort of combat stats at all. So it's just pretty weak compared to a lot of the other classes and origins. So next up we got Brawler. Brawler champions include Blitzcrank, Cho'Gath, Rek'Sai, Volibear, and Warwick. So if you're gonna go for a Brawler comp, you kind of need to grab Rek'Sai, and Rek'Sai is just a very, very weak champion right now. You also gotta grab a Blitzcrank there, which isn't that great. Warwick isn't that great. The Cho'Gath and the Volibear are definitely very good champions right now, but you're not gonna be getting those until later on into the game. So you kind of gotta go for some of the weaker champions if you want to build towards the Brawler bonuses. And because the Brawler bonuses here of the 300 bonus health and the 700 bonus health just aren't that great, it's not really worth it to go for a Brawler composition right now. And then another pretty weak origin I would be staying away from is the Yordle origin. So this origin did actually just get a buff recently because Veigar got buffed, Poppy did along with Kennen, but it is still underperforming compared to most origins and classes. So once you do get to 3 Yordles, the enemies do have a 20% chance to miss on their attacks, but this bonus here is pretty weak. Once you get to 6 Yordles, it goes up to 50% chance to miss, but a 6 Yordles comp isn't really something that is worth playing around. Once you do get to 6 Yordles, you're not really gonna have any other great bonuses from other origins or classes because, for example, Gnar, he's in Wild, Kennen is in Elementalist and Ninja, Lulu, she's in Sorcerer, Poppy is a Knight, Tristana, a Gunslinger, Veigar is a Sorcerer, so you could go for like 3 Sorcerer along with the 6 Yordle, but that composition a lot of the time is gonna be pretty weak compared to a lot of other comps. And then lastly, to round out the video, the Demon origin is still one, along with Yordle, that did just get a buff, but it is still underperforming. So the champions you've got in the Demon origin are Aatrox, Brand, Elise, Evelyn, Morgana, Swain, and Varus. And these champions here are pretty high cost champions. It's gonna take you a little bit to get your Demon composition rolling. Also, the fact that you need your Evelyn and Elise there potentially to run a Demon composition isn't very good because both champions are 2 of the weaker champions in the game. The stats that you do get from Demon, they're not bad. Like the mana burn is definitely very nice, but compared to some of the other stats that other classes and origins give you, it is still a little bit underwhelming. So that is gonna round out the video, guys. Those are at the moment the weakest champions, classes / origins, and items in the game. So if your main goal is to win, then I would be looking to stay away from the things in this video. With that being said though, if you guys did enjoy the video, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.